Okay, we are currently live on YouTube, on the IOMUN YouTube. So we will start the closing ceremony now. Second. We'll let everyone come in and then we will start. Oh. So I believe everyone is here. This closing ceremony will be live streamed. This is why only the SEC members are here. So let's start. Yeah. So welcome everyone to IOMUN 11 closing ceremony. So on the schedule today, we have closing remarks from Secretary General, me, keynote speaker, Dr. Rita Kataisha. I'm really sorry if I'm saying the name wrong. We have the goodbye and farewell, and the announcement and appointments. So we will start with my speech. So, hi everyone, my name is Michal Ktafi, and I am the Secretary General and President of IOMUN 11. For anyone who doesn't know, this is my last IOMUN. I've been a part of MUN for 4 years now, and part of IOMUN for 2. The amount of things I have learned from it in the last 4 years is huge. Being a part of MUN has taught me great skills, such as speech writing, research, knowledge about what's going on in the world, speaking in front of a crowd, and most importantly, it gave me confidence. I believe that MUN has done so to many others, and this is why I am so proud to be able to work hard and create conferences to help people develop their skills and gain confidence like I did. And basically introducing them into MUN and diplomacy. It has been such a great pleasure for me to be part of IOMUN team for the last 5 conferences. The people I have met here have taught me so much and have been with me through a lot. I would like to thank Daniel and Jason for always guiding us and supporting us through all of the difficulties. And I would like to thank Anna and Nao, who used to be a part of IOMUN family and are now our lovely IOMUN ghosts. They have been such great friends to me, and I am so glad to have met them and worked with them. And most importantly, I would like to thank my amazing secretariats. Sorry if I'm saying your names wrong. Fakar, Carol, Karishma, Sivan, Urja, Jennifer, Izzy, PY, Fergati, and Tanisha, who have done such an incredible job for over the past 3 months. Special thanks goes to Yaniv, Vidima, and Omkar. I am so happy to know that I'm leaving IOMUN in your hands because I know you guys will take great care of it and lead it great places. Thank you so much. And now we will continue with our keynote speaker, Dr. Rita Kataisha.
Hi, thank you for having me. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great, perfect. Okay, I'm just going to share some slides and I was going to talk to you all for about 15, 20 minutes and then open up to some Q&A if you have any questions for me.
No problem.
Do I have the ability to share my slides? Let me try.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I do. Okay, perfect. Okay, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see them okay? Great, okay, perfect. Right, so thank you for having me today. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be speaking at the closing ceremony today. And I'll just talk to you a little bit about the work I do, what I'm involved in, how am I connected to the UN, the different SDGs, my links with Democracy Without Borders, and a little bit about the work I do in my company, IOMUN. So it really goes down to sustainability and the reason my work exists, my passion exists in the world that I do. So really, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, just the sustainability and our planet, the planet we all live on, and share, and really why we're even here today. So if we think about, sustainability, our planet and the world, it's something that, why do we do the work that we do? Why we even gathered here today, and helping and discussing these various missions and topics that we're all talking about? Well, some of it is, we think about the environment, we think about the climate, we think about overall the citizens of the world, our global role as global citizens to help not just our communities, but all communities. So we step away from something that is just central to the area that we live in, the street that we live on, to, the local town, extend to the local state, to your country, then your continent, then eventually that goes to the whole world. And I really strongly believe that when you think of sustainability, it's a topic that really affects everybody. So really, it's about, you're helping the environment, helping your local and wider community. It's mission driven. Mission driven, meaning you helping others by the work that you do. It's very highly impact driven. And what we mean by globalization, other than the fact that one little thing can really have impact on everybody else, we all breathe in the same oxygen after all, it really helps to bring cultures together. And when we talk about these missions, a lot of the time, they take on the face of volunteer projects and volunteer activities. So this is where us, everyone on the ground, can take part and see how we can actually help to do something mission driven and to make impact, to make changes in the world around us. Quite often there are companies out there that do some sort of corporate sponsorship. Those are known as ESG or CSR arms in companies, where they actually are a for-profit company, but they actually specifically do something to help. Ultimately, and this is something companies really care about, by helping everybody and having this domino effect, actually it creates economic efficiency. So the way I like to think of CSR, and I know you're probably very familiar with these terms, is the 3 Ps, which is what I like to call as people, planet, and profit. By us coming together as people, we contribute towards helping our planet, which ultimately helps with profit because you're earning adequate returns and actually you're distributing them evenly around. So this little picture here that we can talk about at the moment. And then when we think of sustainable business, after all, it is these companies that are really running the companies and these different projects that are helping us to be able to run our different projects and needs. Well, you think about how much diversity, how many different cultures are we all? Even if you live in the same country, somebody might come from a different part of town, have a different accent, have a different dialect. There's so many different types of diversity issues that are out there for us to consider. So it's not just one size fits all, it's definitely a solution that can help everybody. It's also important to ensure that everybody, as mentioned, feels valued and included in this project. Everyone, if you clean up litter from the streets, for example, or have an environment that is not pollutant, it helps everybody. If you have a gender equal society, it helps everybody, not just women, not just men, it helps everybody. And then ultimately what you want to do to be sustainable, you want to have a self-regulating model that runs itself. It is often done for the greater good, and that's how it can be self-sustaining in the long run. You can help companies become socially accountable. It helps its stakeholders after all, and this helps everybody around the world. So it helps all of us, and it makes us sense to kind of keep on pushing that message as well for sustainability. Quite often, and this is something that you might all be already familiar with in different ways, it takes on a philanthropic way. Gathered here today, this is all something we're doing on a voluntary basis. So this is something philanthropic. Quite often it can take on an act of you being an advocate for something, an activist, and the project can often be of a charitable nature. So again, you volunteer your time, you volunteer your hours, you're getting your communities, you're getting your families involved at times. It really is involvement in quite often ethically oriented practices, which is quite key to notice here. So on that note, I'm now going to go on to the next part, which is how I got involved with various UN activities, my involvement with Democracy Without Borders, and sort of my love for the different SDGs, so to speak, and how I came to be here today. So in terms of my involvement with the UN, I've been involved, I guess, gosh, I've had my company for about 6 years, so at least 6 years. I think even as a youth, when I was your age, even before my 20s, in my sort of mid-teens onwards, I really got to know about, okay, what is the world around us? I remember when I was a teenager, my family and I, we came to New York for the first time. I live in New York now. We came to New York for the first time and visited the UN building. So that was my first experience. I was only 13 years old at the time. And I just remember seeing these different uniforms, people wearing this really beautiful light sky blue almost color, and just being intrigued. And that's really how I guess the journey started, just from that intrigue, asking questions. What do you do? Why is that uniform you wear slightly different to other folks that you have on the streets? And finding out what are these, peacekeeping missions about? What are these different facets of the UN? And as life went on, I went through investment banking, I went through the pharmaceutical industry. I'm now an entrepreneur and I have my own mission-driven company. Every single thread along that journey has had in the background what we now know as the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, whether it's gender equality, whether it's education, whether it's partnerships with other organizations, whether it's really working to create better societies, whether it's climate, water, whatever you're doing on the ground. So there's very various facets that somehow shaped my life and what I do. So when I think of the UN and I think of global citizenship, we think about, when did the UN even come to be? Well, we know this, it's been taken over 70 years for the UN to actually conceptualize and really adapt to the global world we live in. Global citizenship is obviously a concept that is thrown around quite a lot, especially nowadays, but what does it actually mean? Talked about it a little bit in my first slide, but it really is going above and beyond your personal experience. It's about the impact of your personal experience in the greater good. What happens outside of your home, on the street you live in? It goes to your town, it goes to your community. Your community isn't just where you live. It could be a social community, it could be a religious community. It could take many views. And then that goes nationally. And then I would say even internationally, and that's how you get that global citizenship impact. The minute you stop thinking about just yourself, but start thinking of your impact and everybody else around you. So that's something that we really believe in. Ultimately, it fosters respect, decency, and a mutual understanding for all citizens. What do we mean by decency? Well, the decency, I call it, as something, the genuine desire to do right by others. Not something that just looks good on paper, not just something that makes you feel good for a moment, but how does it genuinely impact lives of people around you? As some of you might be very aware, the UN Charter begins with "We the Peoples." And that is something very important to note, because my work later on with Democracy Without Borders really capitalizes and has that foundation of "We the Peoples" at the root of it. As we know, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals is a goal the UN set really ultimately to revisit in the year 2030. And that is something that I think all of us here believe in, are in some ways impacting some of those goals around us. So Democracy Without Borders, I came to be a founding member of the India chapter, I would say at least a couple of years ago now, based originally out of Germany. It really is an organization which strives for a democratic world order, where global citizenship is at its root, where citizens participate beyond national boundaries. So it's really everybody. Your thought process isn't, okay, what's happening to me? How is it impacting everyone else around us? So that's ultimately what Democracy Without Borders believes in fundamentally. It's a transnational, regional, and global institutions that form member and partnerships with Democracy Without Borders. And this is how democracy is believed in at DWB. There is an establishment of a parliamentary assembly at the United Nations, and that is a strong belief. Last year, and I know some of you on the call here today were very much part of that, where through Democracy Without Borders, we actually ran a simulation of the parliamentary UN Parliamentary Assembly based out of India, and the cause of that was actually gender equality, so SDG number 5. And the different teams on board actually had to put together different bylaws, actual bylaws out there, which were reviewed by parliamentarians in India and around the world. So it's a great way to actually partake in this simulation, which is ultimately what Democracy Without Borders would love to see on a global level, actually at the Parliamentary Assembly at the UN. It's a step, after all, towards global parliament elected by all world citizens. What do we mean by that? Well, at the moment, member states, when they go and represent themselves at the UN, they're representing themselves and they have their voice of their people and country. What Democracy Without Borders is trying to do to say, well, everybody is a global citizen. You all have different experiences of how things impact you. You take that global citizenship view when you go to the parliament. You're actually enacting all citizens. You might come from a certain member state, but when you are there in that parliamentary assembly, you are now representing everybody with a view local to you. And that really helps on this bigger picture. We the People's campaign is at the root of it, as I mentioned. Please do feel to check out the wethepeoples.org website, which actually gives you a lot more information and clarity on what this is all about. And really, DWB is an international collaboration and global governance, which is needed, we believe, to help world citizens overall. And it really, really, really helps to connect national and global democratization because of this. So in terms of what this is and how it impacts us and what we're doing in DWB India, this is obviously a call for the UN to member states, and it implements 3 different things. This is what the call for DWB is. 1, a World Citizens Initiative. And again, if you go to the website, you'll get a lot more information on this. A UN Parliamentary Assembly, and obviously the simulation we ran last year, and we want to do more of these. And a UN Civil Society Envoy, which is similarly on the back of those 2 above. And it wants to, by doing those things, enhance the legitimacy of having global governance. So the philosophy in particular of DWB India, the India chapter, is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. What that translates to in Sanskrit is ultimately we are all one family under the sun. The world is one family. And that is strongly what is we believed in, and that is a concept specifically in our India chapter that we promote. Our India team consists of our founding president, Dr. Ajuja Samanta, our founding secretary, Dr. Varun Sutra, and founding members such as Dr. Lenin Raghovanshi, Ms. Nikita Ahya, and myself at the moment in the India chapter. So that's what DWB does. I want to now talk to you a little bit about my personal work with UMA and what I do and how it all sort of stems in together. So when I think about what UMA is, it really is an amalgamation of my life's journey. I did talk to you about, from the tender age of 13, how I got involved in world issues and even the UN without really knowing it. So that's always taken me to a global viewpoint. My family from northeast of India, a place called Assam. I grew up, born and brought up in London. I now live in New York, but I lived in different countries and parts of the world during my formative years. So I have always very much seen myself as a global citizen. So UMA was really started because of my personal and my professional journey, and specifically targets women and minorities, but really youth as well and development, and has a footprint in various cities and countries around the world. It really is a mission-driven organization. It is a strategic diversity and a consultancy for inclusion as well, specializes in coaching, training, and mentoring as well. What we do for that, we try to empower confidence in everything we do, inspire success, and build resilience and leadership, specifically in youth, women, and minorities around the world. We very much focus on the UN SDGs as being the backbone of our what we do. And some of them I've already spoken about. The SDGs particularly are 4, 5, 8, and 17, 4 being education, gender equality being number 5, work and fair economic growth being number 8, and then having meaningful partnerships is number 17. Quite often when you see companies, whether they're non-profit, whether they're for-profit, they do things solo. And while that is great and everyone has their own mission, I'm thinking, don't be scared and afraid of partnering with other like-minded organizations. The concept of synergy, where you have one piece and you work together, and then 1 + 1 isn't 2, it becomes 5, 10, 15, 20, and then it blossoms from there, is really what SDG 17 is all about. It's proof of the pudding, so to speak. So that's really a nutshell of what UMA does. Some of our recent projects specifically on citizenship is some of the training we've done, and I've just provided a few little snapshots of, we work with some veterans, some schoolgirls in low-income neighborhoods, and survivors of domestic violence. And that's just some recent work that we continue to do and very strongly do as well. So that's really a snapshot of UMA, the work I do and what we do. I wanted to tell you a little bit about part of my journey, I recently published a book called The Goddess of Go-Getting, which is really a book about empowerment and the job and the professional personal experience that I just talked about. So on that nutshell, I'm going to now pause and open up to any questions on the work I do, the whys, anything at all. Omkar, hi, I can see your hand up.
Thanks a lot for the wonderful presentation, ma'am. That was very comprehensive and persuasive. So I have a couple of questions for you. I'll go one by one. Firstly, to start with, like all of us people on this call, we are sort of the cosmopolitan elite in the world. Like we have access with people across the world. We talk to them. We have channels of communication, so we can empathize towards a global cause. But then we have other people who are sort of localized. They don't have access to a global community. They don't know anything beyond their towns, beyond their states, or beyond their cities, or for a matter of fact, beyond their neighborhoods. So how do we exactly expect those people to feel for the world and like be world citizens?
That's a great question, Omkar. And actually what you've spoken about is actually the majority case. Most people on this planet really only think about themselves. You have to first think about why that is. Part of it is, where you live and the access to information that you have. Ultimately, I think education is at the root, SDG number 4 right there. Education is at the root of spreading the awareness to people. And you have to think what education people have access to. Whether it's the media, whether it's magazines, whether it's TV, whether it's school system, whether it's family conversations you have at home afterwards with your caregiver, with your parent, with your guardian, whoever that might be. And what is that access to information? Most people don't have access to the information that us here on this call have today. And that is the reality of it. And as we know, in this modern era, there is so much news around and there's so much access to information and different viewpoints of that information. And questions get raised upon what is real, what is not real, how do we interpret this? So all we can do from our side, the minute you start to enforce your viewpoint, it actually has the reverse effect, right? If you have a strong viewpoint, somebody says, oh, no, that's wrong because of this, that, it's going to be the wrong viewpoint. So the way I see it is just, you always take the time to listen to others first, see what they feel, what they, what is their situation? How is it in their town, their village, wherever they are? Listen to them and then volunteer from your side, your experiences. Talk about your experiences that aren't just where you live, but wider experiences. Do it in a way that talks about that, how passionate you are about it. In a way, then you're selling the concept to them. It's almost like I tell people, if you're trying to sell a product, you don't actually sell it. The minute you start saying, oh, well, buy this or buy that, and here's a price, or you turn people off. But the minute you talk about a concept, why do people need it? You circle about the problem that is out there and what some work is being done to solve it. That's when you get people's interest, right? I think of a TED Talk, think of a good speech you've heard, where somebody that's really, really impactful talks, and they're talking about a topic that you had no idea about when you first heard them. But by the end of it, you're like, wow, I'm going to look this up. I'm going to look up the speaker. I'm going to buy that book, right? It's because of they've brought you into the concept. It's the same thing. So how do you do that in a nutshell? Have that passion, listen first, and then talk from your heart about the different issues.
That was insightful. I guess I'll go with one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
That would be, currently we talk about the UNPA, like the proposal is out there. And we talked about people, okay, they're okay with representing the countries in the UNPA, but they stand for the world as a whole. Now, there are a lot of countries which are struggling for recognition. For example, we have Tibet, we have Xinjiang, we have, let's say we had this country, we have the western part of Timor, we have a lot of other countries like that, which are struggling for independence. So if we have a world parliament, how do we exactly manage the question of whether we let those countries be independent, or do we have those countries as a part of the countries they're currently under?
Great question. So here's the thing. If you think about the world overall, if you think of just geopolitics, without going into the whole topic of geopolitics, the word politics, unfortunately, is what's dividing people. Leaders have different viewpoints. They would then want to hold that viewpoint and show their strength as a leader. And that, unfortunately, sometimes you forget, not sometimes, quite often the people are forgotten in this leadership strife. So when we think about the UNPA, when we think about what does World Parliament mean, we're actually trying to bring people in, the citizens in, to be those global voices, not the politicians, the citizens, right? And that's the difference. Citizens have a different viewpoint. You might come from a country, a war-torn country right now, but guaranteed your viewpoint's going to be different when you can speak from your heart. And that is what ultimately is going to help and bring people together. So there isn't an easy answer, unfortunately, right now. This is something we are striving to do, right? But this is ultimately the goal. When you can, how can we get the world people involved? How can we get more voices like this forum involved to really lift that going forward?
Okay, so would that be meaning like we are sort of trying to promote direct democracy across the world? Like we're trying to empower the citizens.
Exactly. So you think about how do you make change happen? Change can come from top down when you have mandated policies from government, but change is also grassroots, right? From the people, each person, each citizen, each child, each baby onwards has their own voice, their own footprint. And there's more of us than there are people in government. So if you think of that and the grassroots changes you can have, like a snowball, like a domino effect. One person believes in something, you spread that in a good way, and then it's a domino effect.
That was impactful. That was surely inspirational. So, to the other people in this call, do we have any questions for ma'am? You can basically ask her anything. She's one of the most enlightened people I know on the field of women empowerment, minority inclusion, and so I've had the Yanni, please go ahead.
First of all, thank you so much for your speech. It was really amazing. And I was wondering, for all of the audience that are listening right now, or for people that will watch it in the future, what advice can you give us teenagers, students to continue with Model UN and take our skills and go forward?
Here's the thing. Thank you, Yanni. We really appreciate that. And I'm glad you found this an insightful topic that we're discussing. So you guys, you're the future. Each one of you here today, you are the future. You're here. By being here, you are enlightened. You are the change makers. When I talk about that grassroots change, it's each of you. So take it upon yourself to think, what have I picked up during these last couple of days, right, in this Model UN? What have I picked up? What can I do? What has stuck out? How has your advocacy changed? How have you become that more passionate by listening to all the amazing people and feeding off each other's energies during these last couple of days? You take that conviction and think, okay, I'm now responsible. I'm going to make that change happen. Remember, it's one person at a time. You're the change maker. You're the future. So you take one topic, one of those topics, and you start at a time thinking, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to impact something that I believe in that's something to do with this? Then how do I educate others? Not in a forceful way, but in a way that enlightens, and people think, oh, that's really interesting. Can you offer to do a speech on a topic? When you go back to school, college, university, what is it? Can you do a talk at a local community thing? I said, hey, I just had this really amazing experience. I'd love to spend a few words just to talk about it. Whatever it is, see what you can do to spread your voice and the message across. And it's little steps like that, Yaniv, that can make a difference.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any further questions? Ms. Karishma, you may go ahead.
Okay, hi. First of all, thank you so much for your vulnerable words. It was really nice to listen to you. So, as I know, you're also a career strategist. So I wanted to ask, how should we decide? I'm in 12th grade and I'm applying for unis, but I'm very confused which course should I apply for and what exactly I should do. So could you just help me and tell me how should I choose subjects or courses, what I want to do?
Well, hi, Karishma. Well, congratulations on being in 12th grade now. I think this is this is the time where your life starts from here. Thank you for asking that question. So one thing I would say is that the word career, in a way, is a little bit outdated, to be fair. Because if you think about it, in your parents' day, in my parents' day, when you did a career, it meant it's something that lasts for life. What you study now is going to end up what you graduate with, what you work as, and you're going to retire doing that thing, and that's it. As we all know, the world has changed. That's not the case anymore. You know, you can actually study one thing, Karishma, now, but you might end up doing something totally different after you graduate. And then a few months later, you might flip flop again and do something different. In this day and age, that is normal. It's almost expected. And it shows actually your impact can be greater because you have so many more skills and experiences from different walks of life. So I would say for you, don't put that pressure on yourself to think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do when I grow up? You know, when you're like 5 years old and somebody asks you that question, like, what are you going to do when you grow up? That question, like, don't ask yourself that now. Think about, what do I want to do now? What am I passionate about now? What am I intrigued about now? Right? To see what you're intrigued about. But also think about, how can I sustain myself? Is this something, if this is important to you, can I sustain myself if I graduate in that subject? What can I do to make a living for myself? How can I support myself? Right? So think about whatever you decide to study, how can I then convert that into something that can support myself? But you have to be passionate about it first. Otherwise, you know, you're going to be studying this, you're going to be working in something, you think, oh, what am I doing? So what is that cause? Are there any role models in areas that you think, gosh, I wish I could follow in that person's footsteps? Even me, my own example, I started off in finance. Even before that, my parents wanted me to be a doctor. So I studied medicine for 2 years. But it took me 2 years to realize, and actually not realize, but I didn't even know how to talk to my parents. I thought, I don't want to break their hearts. I don't want to let them down. Let me just carry on doing something I don't like. But it took me 2 years to actually get the courage to face up to them. And that was really the opening part of my life, because at that point, I then didn't become scared. When I stood up to my parents, that was the most enlightening actually moment in my life. That opened up my door to the future. So now I think, okay, now I'm going to do something for myself. So Karishma, think about what you're going to do for yourself. Think about what you're passionate for. How can you convert that into some opportunities later on that can help sustain what you're going to do as well, and whatever lifestyle you need. So I hope that's been helpful. I am on LinkedIn if you want to connect with me afterwards, and you know, happy to connect afterwards and answer more questions, Karishma.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, guys, we have one question, like time for one more question left. Does anyone want to ask another question? No? Okay, so I asked. Does UNPA is open to collaborate with MUNs?
So it's a difficult question. I think in principle, absolutely. But the UNPA simulation is just starting to take place now. But I think it absolutely is a collaboration. It is, at the end of the day, we're fighting for the same mission. When we think of the SDG 17 partnership, this is the partnership. So I think absolutely, it's something that we can definitely explore going forward. Would love to explore this and how we can further what you guys are doing, and you know what I'm helping to do through Democracy Without Borders too. So let's connect.
Thank you so much for coming to speak with us and enlightening us with everything you do. You really are an inspiring person. We really thank you.
Thank you so much. And all the best to all of you. Really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All the best to you as well. So we will continue with our closing ceremony. Okay, it's a bit weird for me to say it. It's basically like, you know, this is my last IOMUN. And so this is the time I'm saying goodbye. And I'm moving on to study to be a paramedic for the next 3 years and serving the national service in Israel. And I really want to say thank you to all of you for being part of my MUN journey and being here to basically do it alongside me. I've met here amazing people, and I am so glad that I did. Does anyone else have anything they want to add?
I wanted to say thank you so much, Michal. That's like everything. I joined IOMUN 2 years, like like 3 IOMUNs ago. We're not counting by years even, we're counting by IOMUNs. It's that bad. But I joined and I met Michal. I joined through Michal and Minecraft Initiative, which is going to return, hopefully.
We
And
even have Anna here.
yes, and like really, you managed everything. You were available always. You always had a solution for any problem possible. It's just that you're amazing.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
I may
Yeah,
take the
so-
opportunity. Oh yeah, please, Anna, go ahead.
Thanks. First of all, thank you, Michael, for inviting me back to an IOMUN. It was such a pleasure working with you for the past few years, and you've done such an amazing job. And I've been watching from a distance how you've been doing as president, and you've just honestly been the best. I mean, me and Naho could not have picked a better replacement, and I'm so proud of you for how much you've developed IOMUN and developed in yourself. I'm so proud of you for getting onto the paramedics course, because you were going to be the most amazing paramedic. Because you're just such a sweet, wonderful, intelligent person. And I am so blessed to have worked with you, and I'm so proud of you. And I'm so proud of everyone else who's worked on IOMUN, and I can't wait to see how it develops as well. Thank you so much for your service, Michael. I love you.
Yeah, I won't take long, but I have been associated with IOMUN since its sixth edition, that was December 2020. So IOMUN was my first committee as a delegate, and the journey has continued. I've stayed over here for a while, and Mikhal's been very cooperative all the while. So I've had an opportunity of working with her across departments. So thanks a lot, Mikhal. You'll be cherished, you'll be remembered, and we'll always look up to you for guidance and for assistance. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all so much. I really love you. More than words can say. Okay, so we will move on. So IOMUN 12, the dates for IOMUN 12 and 13 are yet to be announced, but they will be announced soon on our Instagram, on our website, on every social media platform available. And we will come back to you guys with that. And let's welcome our new president, Yaniv, our youngest president of IOMUN ever.
God. Thank you.
And okay, so together with Yaniv, the executive board is going to be active for the next IOMUN is Cherry Sons, the head of events and operations, Vidima Sharma as the Secretary General and head of outreach and social media, and Omkar as the Deputy Secretary General. Like I said, I'm so happy that I'm leaving this team behind, because I know they will take care of IOMUN in the best way possible, and they will push it forward to develop more and be amazing even more. So I'm really proud. And that's it. I am looking for one last motion as a tradition in IOMUN, and that motion is a motion to close IOMUN 11. Yes, Yaniv.
Motion to close IOMUN 11.
IOMUN 11 is now closed, everyone.
Woo!
Thank you all so much for watching.